Welcome to Reality Test. I'm Dr. Ray.
And I'm Dr. Kay. Feel free to check in, take a seat wherever you like, for part 2 of Bachelor in Paradise reunion, unpacking and revealing.
Revealing, unpacking, whatever the fuck else we're doing. I don't know. We're doing all sorts of things. It's 9 p.m. on a Thursday, and we're out here talking about Bachelor in Paradise. I'm very excited.
Sure are. You're going to get to see our more later evening, falling apartness.
Mm-hmm. This is our coping strategy sometimes after a long day of work. Yeah. And it feels good. It's nice to do. Nice to have a little wine and talk about The Bachelor. Makes me happy.
Exactly. Have some wine and do a little whining.
Mm-hmm. Yes, both are great. Both are great, needed self-care, therapeutic endeavors that I'm happy we partake in together.
Yes, exactly. It's nice to have a compatriot in this here journey of ours, including just the journey of talking about Bachelor alone, because that alone is you can't get through it without processing it a little bit with someone else. So then you add in the fun of being able to podcast with you and have a glass of wine or some seltzer, and it's just double the trouble and fun.
Double the trouble, fun, antics, all the things.
You know it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to skip the check-in this time, but this time we brought our reality check preparations. So as you may recall, our reality check segment is where Dr. Ray and I both bring a study where we share with you a thing we've been thinking about, noodling on, a study that sort of gives us a thought that might relate to social media, social justice, or reality TV. None of the socials. Social media, social justice, reality TV, psychology, mental health, something related to our topics or ourselves and our lives. We are, in fact, psychotherapists and psychologists, but we're not your psychotherapist unless you're one of our couple clients that listen. And we do, however, talk about mental health, about the people that we're talking about, but we're doing so from an observer perspective. We do not know these folks at all. We're not their therapists either. And we would have to assess them longer term to be able to make any judgments about their diagnoses, but we might make comments about them as a wondering type of position. So we're going to talk about that when we get to that portion of today. And for now, Dr. Ray, what did you bring for us to reality check on with?
I'm so excited. So I was noodling today on something that you've talked about, dear Dr. Kay, about the thing that happens with people in minoritized positions where they're often fighting for reduced resources. And I was thinking about the fight between Bailey and Alex. So, to recap a little bit, they have been fighting over the fact that Alex did not disclose to Bailey that she knew that Jeremy had wanted to see Susie more often, and I think called her in one of his confessionals. And yet what we talked about last week is that all the people of color were then fighting with each other, including Andrew, right? So there's one black man and two black women fighting, and yet Jeremy is the one who engaged in the bad behavior. So I was trying to find, because I know this is a thing in the literature, but I've never actually read said literature. And in my noodling, I actually found the term lateral violence, which is kind of what I think it's called. And actually, there's a ton on this in the nursing literature. So go nurses. They've really kind of done a lot on this. But the article I'm going to talk about is titled "Feminism is Eating Itself: Women's Experiences and Perceptions of Lateral Violence Online." And this is talking about how women kind of have this tendency to critique each other online. This might be in mom spaces with the mommy wars, or the sex wars, where there's a lot of people talking about how men critique women online, but there's also a lot of women critiquing the ways in which other women are engaging in topics that are traditionally feminine. So talking about how patriarchal oppression leads to this and how some of these women might consider themselves to be feminist, but are also then policing the way other women engage in being a woman, right? Yeah. And so we can, while this one is particular to feminism and women, we can apply these sorts of things to other forms of marginalization and other forms of intersecting marginalized identities.
Oh, yeah.
Bailey and Alex are women, and they're women of color, which adds an extra layer of complexity to this. But the ways in which infighting can happen. I saw another article too that talks a little bit about like how when spaces don't feel like they're super like feminist or super accepting of folks with like different identities, that can create more of this tension. And if we think about the Bachelor franchise, it's not the most feminist space. And so, of course, Bailey and Alex are feeling the need to like defend themselves. And also like social media and the public that watches this show can be really hard on women and women of color. So, of course, then what we're seeing is playing out where Bailey and Alex are kind of fighting with each other as opposed to looking at Jeremy, the person who actually engaged in the event that caused harm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Check it out. Feminism is Eating Itself. A really interesting article, and I was glad to noodle on all of this a little more today.
Definitely. I'm so glad you did. Yeah, no, there's definitely the like post-feminist world that women think we don't need feminism anymore, or people who are feminists that think that like therefore they have the right to be like, you're not feminist enough, or da-da-da. It's just like there's not, there's a full shared agreement that I think ideally feminism would espouse, which is that we would all be looking at the ways in which we are all patriarchal and perpetuating patriarchy, and therefore trying to critique our own instinct to critique each other, and rather see it as like all of us trying to learn and grow together. I think also the first place I heard about this idea of like fighting for reduced resources was about people of color, specifically about like how white supremacy set up things like specifically the ghetto, right? Like this idea of the ghetto, or this idea of like low income areas where they then forced all the people of color to live and then got mad at them for black on black violence, when like black on black violence is a result of people in low income areas fighting for reduced resources that the white supremacy set them up to need to fight for. And that it also is a way of like controlling. There's like this great history lesson to be said about like the fact that like in order for there were not like more white people than people of color, but the white people that wanted to have power, how can they keep power is by convincing the poor white people that because this is like the rich people have the least amount. That's really what it is. It's like rich white people have the least amount, there are very few rich white people, but they have the most power and they want to keep that power. The way they can keep that power is by convincing the poor white people that they're the same as we are. Like we as white rich people, you're the same as us. So like we need to fight the black people. Like we need to fight the people of color so that then we can keep our power. So that's why racism like really developed as such a strong tactic, was that it was a way of keeping white poor people on rich white people's side so that then rich white people could stay in power instead of having everybody join together to come against them. And that's happening right now with Trump. So this like same kind of concept of like fighting for reduced resources is a way that people in power keep those who are marginalized from revolting and coming back for power. So it's like
very awesome.
Yeah, that way if they control who gets what and they control all of the resources, they can make sure that there's only so little that everyone can fight for, so then they're focused on that instead of focused on coming for the people who are in control. So,
and it's not even a little bit subtle, right? It's so overt.
Yeah. And that's like why also someone like Trump would go after history, right? Like he doesn't want us to be teaching history. He doesn't want people to be learning about history. He doesn't want people to learn about art, because those are areas where we could be learning about that, about the fact that that's happened before, that that's what's happening now, so that poor white people would actually fight back too with those of us who are trying to push against this oppressive regime.
There was this debate that was happening on RuPaul's Drag Race. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the queen who did it, but it was so funny. It was like she was feeling uncomfortable. And so she did this thing where she was like, look over there. And Ru, if you've seen the show, sometimes he'll just lose it when someone does. It was like, look over there. And I feel like that is all that Trump does. Like, look over there, look over the, don't look at anything but looking at me. Oh, look at Tylenol, look at whatever the fuck. Yeah. I really want to cite this queen, and it was so funny, this skit. It was like they were actually doing a political debate, and I think she was like, look over there, and it was my delivery doesn't even close to do it justice, but it was.
You can look it up. Look it up.
Yeah, I just might.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that right now.
I like the idea of citing them.
Look over there. Drag race.
Oh yeah, they finished the sentence while I was writing it. So Jada Essence Hall.
Yes. Oh my God. And she's fabulous. She's fabulous. She's a pageant queen too, but she can also be very awkward. And it was hilarious. Oh my gosh. So fun. But yeah, that while a joke on that show is very much the way that Trump
functions. Totally. Yeah, constant, which is also like the whole fight against trans people, speaking of drag, gender bending, but he absolutely, that's the whole point of the anti-trans agenda, is to like look at these people that we should all be fighting over and fighting against, not us, like not the people in power, not the rich people, but like these people that we're going to demonize instead. It's so bad. Ugh,
dark stuff.
Great.
That is my article. Yeah, and thank you for the context you provided. That was really excellent and helpful.
Absolutely, both and I'm interested to look at that article too. It's so sad. It's like the online culture is so rife for that, and yeah, that point too about like the setting you're in. Like I think about like skyscraper, like business world, that like women are much more likely to fight each other for reduced resources for their jobs, like backstab each other to keep the job or get the job because there are reduced resources in that setting, but also because they're in a setting that doesn't promote, equity and safety and acceptance.
All this shit plays out in our field, and a lot of psychologists are really trying to be aware of these things. So I've spoken to women in business, and it seems like a really tough environment where, the women who seem to be successful have to, at least to some degree, internalize patriarchal ways of being, which sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like our cultural knee-jerk reaction to see like men as more competent than women, and so like if we want to be seen as competent or like good at our jobs or business-minded or smart, then we would have to be more masculine. I often think about that with like getting my doctorate. Like, did I do that because I felt like that's the only way I'd be taken seriously or seen as smart? Because otherwise, just automatically, I'm not a man, so I'm not going to be seen as smart in a room unless I have an additional, power card. And then the fact that I have like a more masculine voice or sort of like deeper voice, and like, did that come out of a need to be more, seen as more or taken more seriously by being, and they say that still today, like all the negotiating research, they're like, lower your voice to like be taken seriously or like to win the negotiation. It's so sad.
Totally. It's also, as a fellow deeper voiced woman, I find that sometimes when I lean into that, I'm taken more seriously. And who fucking knows why we got our doctorate? Probably complicated, like multifaceted, but I'm sure that that's definitely in the mix. Yeah. I'll say that for myself for sure too.
Yeah. Power, as something we've been taught that we should be looking for anyway. I mean, we're taught that from day one, that's sort of the only way we're going to be able to survive, is having some sort of like money or power or status or... So fuck them. Fuck this goddamn capitalist society and exceptionalist society. Love it. Great one. Okay, mine is some interesting-ish, maybe adjacent. One could make the argument, but I won't bother spending time doing that. Actually, fuck yeah. Never mind. There's a very good reason it's connected. There's this conception that the more money you have, the happier you're going to be. Haha. Money, fucking Trump. This is your problem. So there's a landmark worldwide study that was done that showed that actually money is not a strong predictor of happiness. They were supported by a study by Nobel Prize winners Angus Deaton and Daniel Kahneman in 2003. They looked at how income tracked with happiness in the U.S. alone, and they found that beyond a $75,000 income, so like a cap at $75K per year, people stayed basically as happy as they were before. So basically we get to a certain point, they're happier, more money I have. And then once you get your basic needs met, we plateau. So if you're getting your basic needs met, right nowadays it would be 105,000 is equivalent to 75K.
I believe it. That was going to be my one thought. Yep.
Yeah. Exactly. Is that at 105K now, we have our basic needs met and then we're happy. This and other studies broadly suggest that beyond a certain income, it's substantially a weaker thing. Dan Gilbert at Harvard tested similar idea, but with a dream job. Like if we get our dream job, we think it's all going to be better if we get our dream job. And people have this assumption that when you get your dream job, you'll be infinitely happier. And if you were to lose your dream job, you'd be infinitely unhappier. And in fact, it shows that so we think the line would go like that, like steep uphill for getting it and steep downhill or decline for not getting it, for losing it. And he did this thing where he had students rate it, like how happy do you think you would be if you got your dream job, and how unhappy do you think you'd be if you lost it? And on a 10-point Likert scale, they predicted that their happiness would drop by 2.1 points out of 10 if they lost their dream job. But in reality, they only had a 0.68 point drop. So like they were given a dream job and then it was rescinded in an experiment, but obviously they thought it was real, and so they did only feel mildly negative about it, not the huge drop they thought they would feel. So then, if students believe the decision wasn't their fault, like if they were like, oh, they just made a mistake, or like, oh, there was someone who's better fit because of blah, but it's not because I wasn't good enough, then they actually are not any less happy. They don't become any less happy at all if they lose their job and they think it's justified, like that it wasn't their fault. They won't get any less happy, which is wild. And so the goal pursuit, basically, our goal pursuit is dopamine inducing. So like as we're getting close to a goal, we have dopamine releasing and we're like, oh, this is exciting. We're almost there. But once you hit the part where you get it, you're actually no happier than you would be any other day. Like it stops producing dopamine. You don't keep getting more and more. So once you reach your goal, it just sort of plateaus. And actually we end up coming back to the mean. So like whatever our like normative happiness level is, anything like this, we think there'll be these huge changes, but we actually end up being sort of around the same thing. And eventually it'll come back to where it was anyway. So basically the journey is more important than the destination. That's the part that's important. And one last version of it that I wanted to share was about cosmetic surgery, which is that in 2012, this Norwegian social research group did one on cosmetic surgery. They collected data from 1,500 adolescents over 13 years. 5% of those 1,500 adolescents got cosmetic surgery during that time. And this 5% showed greater signs of depression and anxiety than their peers did.
Wow.
But after... And then also they liked their physical appearance less and they had more thoughts of self-harm. But after they got surgery, all of those symptoms increased. So they became more insecure, like higher signs of depression and anxiety, lower satisfaction with appearance, and higher suicidal ideation. Similarly, the same thing happened with weight, where people who were losing weight, there was people who were losing weight, people who stayed the same, and people who gained weight. And people who lost weight and met their goal were the most depressed of all three groups.
Wow.
So people who got, so I mean, my understanding of that, or where I would sort of take that in terms of just potential reasoning, is that like people, when they put all of their influence or like put all of their oomph behind this goal, thinking like all I need is just to lose weight, or all I need is just to like look like this, or all I need is a perfect nose, and then it doesn't change everything about their lives, then it's disappointing. And so then it becomes, depressing, because then it's like the one thing you thought would work didn't. So like now what? Do you get more plastic surgery, which is what happens with a lot of people, or like, do I need to lose more weight, or do I need to da-da-da? So basically that is to say, when we have appearance related goals, we are most likely to be unhappy with them, even if we meet those goals. And then the other thing about that, so like having the perfect face or having the perfect body doesn't make us as happy as we think it will. Having the dream job doesn't make us as happy as we think it will. Losing it doesn't make us as sad as we think it will. And having more money does not make us as happy as we think it will. So basically finding goals, this relates to something we talked about early on when we were talking about White Lotus, that like having goals related to money is just not fulfilling. Like ultimately you're not going to be happy when you get it, and you're not going to be, so this backs that up. And also it just means that like if you end up rich and loaded, then what are you working for anymore? Like what are your dreams? Mm-hmm. So it makes me again happy for the career choice we've chosen and being happy and fulfilled by the work we do. And also it means that to everyone listening, that maybe, striving for those kinds of goals as far as appearance and so forth is not serving you well, and finding other things that give you purpose and meaning would be helpful. And also it's okay that we're not as rich as Trump, because he's just as happy as if he only had 100K.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And yeah, we are doing fine out here.
Yep.
But thank you for sharing that. And I think that's super like apt with some of the themes related to class that are going to come up today. And so, yeah,
exactly.
I'm looking forward to diving in a little more.
Exactly. I had a supervisee who was talking about being raised in like a very lucrative household or whatever, and said that really she felt like everyone she knew who was really, really rich was actually quite empty. Like they felt like unfulfilled. And that's what made us talk about like why, if you're only going for money, that's not good probably for you, because it's unfulfilling. But it's more proof of that. There's sort of like an emptiness. As much as we think that it's better if you had money, it's not. We just need to get our basic needs met. Just good enough. Everything in good enough. Moderation.
Yeah. And slowing the fuck down, and maybe getting some therapy for those of us who are striving, and then, it doesn't really change anything.
Yes. Therapy always. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yay. Okay, good. So we had some good like lateral violence and money related class oligarchy kind of content here. And now we'll go talking about Bachelor in Paradise, where you'll find some other class differences, as Dr. Ray just brought up. And we are officially on the third page, which starts with Kathy. Yeah, it's you again. And I think it starts with Kathy saying, I knew Parisa was unhappy. Is that right? Yeah.
It must be. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Which I found really helpful, that when Kathy said, I knew Parisa was unhappy, so I was mercy voting. And that helped me see that, like, because that, you know, it could have been that, God, what's his name? The Italian boy. Why do I always forget his name? Brian. I was like, maybe he's getting a bad edit. Like, are we missing something? The fact that he was so kind to Bailey. But it's like, no, like, if not, it was worse than maybe what we saw on screen. Yeah. So it was helpful to hear Kathy's opinion and observations on that. And Parisa agreed that they did have that conversation. And then Alicia said, you did vote platonic over love. She entered the chat, huh? Yeah. Interesting human. And then Wells said, well, fair question. He repeats his question. What was his question?
Her question, that she did vote platonic over love. Like, what you did, that means you did vote platonic over love. And he's like, that is fair, actually, Kathy. You know, what is that?
No. What is that about? And then Keith said,
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Same. And I think Keith felt the same. He was like, I did that in the moment, but but also acknowledged, like, at 63 years old, I'm still learning. I was still learning then. Like, you know, it's hard to know what to do in the moment, I think is what he was trying to say.
Yeah, we're all learning. We all make mistakes and we're all learning.
All the fucking time.
I'll tell you this part too, just quickly, because I also had an issue with it actually, is that Keith said, I'm still at 63, I'm still learning about myself. And Kathy goes, really? And I was like, really, you, Kathy? Yeah. I was like, I'm more surprised you think you're not learning about yourself anymore. I think we all learn about ourselves, but especially in such a high stress environment like that show, you'd think that Kathy and Keith both would have learned a lot about themselves. But
yeah, how could you not in such a pressure cooker? And then Parisa said, I think her voting us off came from a good place. I would go to tell her all the time I was miserable, spiraling. Poor thing.
Yeah, that language was strong. Like miserable and spiraling, both very strong words.
And then Dale said, all relationships develop at different levels and stages and times, which I learned from Alex and Andrew starting late. I put a segment here, which is kind of random, but I wanted to put this somewhere. I think I mentioned this previously, either to you or in our, greater podcast. I was not a fan of Dale on the show. I didn't like what I saw. I found him annoying and shallow. I actually kind of liked him on the podcast. Not that I agreed with everything he said, but I found him to be like a much more well-rounded, relatable human. And I was like, oh, you actually seem like a cool guy. Like he just seemed a little more down to earth in the way at least I perceived him watching the show. So something I mentioned previously and now disagree with is like my feelings about Dale. There's probably, of course, there's more there than what we saw on the show, but he actually seems like someone I would like enjoy talking to, where I didn't feel that way before.
Yeah. Nice. I love it.
Yeah. So,
I agree.
And then, oh, good. Cool.
Yeah. I like him.
And then I think Wells or someone asked how aligned Allyshia was with Sean's plan. I was on board with real relationships over platonic, and I voted separately from Sean. We didn't feel pressured to vote together. And then talked about their iconic exit from Paradise. I didn't find it that iconic.
No,
I think they thought they were doing a lot that I don't actually think they were doing, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Wells is the one who called it iconic. I was like, no, it's not. Like, sit down.
Yeah, stop. Yeah. And then
she said she didn't regret it.
Yeah, said she didn't regret it. I've seen personalities come out of this show and I know all I need to know about them. So she's really entering the chat in like a big way for playing, in my opinion, kind of a minor role in the season. And if I'm to be honest about what I think her bigger beef is, I think she wanted to be more of a main character in the season. And so now she's trying to insert herself here.
Yeah. Yeah, she even kind of made that clear in her fight with Kat, where she was like, you didn't treat me welcoming when I came in. And it's true, like, that is something that I think happens. It happens on Love Island as well, with like the, you know, the players on sand, the ones who start out at the beginning, and then the ones who come in through Casa. Like John A., whom I love, recently said on a podcast that she can't even imagine if she said, if I was a Casa girl, I would have turned right around and left. Like, I would never have been a Casa girl. It's like, ooh, that's kind of shitty, because like some of these girls, it's like the only option they have. They're going to do it, you know? So, even though I love John A., of course, and no notes, it still is a tough thing to say. But the point is just being there is a power difference there that is created, and Kat definitely leaned into the power position. And I think Allyshia definitely felt the oppression of being in the down one.
And maybe she's not used to that. I didn't see her season of The Bachelor, but it strikes me that she sees herself as the main character or whatnot and is not good at, like, doesn't like feeling cast aside in that way.
Yeah, and she obviously went for Dale, and Dale did not go for her, so.
Nope. Sorry about ya. So yeah, that whole thing happened.
She said something during her exit where she was like, you know, she's pissed off. She's like, now I know who my real friends are, and people suck, and everybody sucks. And so then Wells asked her who she was talking about.
Oh, yes. And she said Bailey and Alex. So my guy was going behind my back, starting propaganda. And then I walked into a room with my girls and I learned for the first time I was going home. So that felt hurtful for her.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm sorry, just really quick, is the other thing I point out from that is that she said that my guy was, okay, this is the ironic fucking part. This whole portion started with Wells saying to her, how aligned are you with Sean's plan? And what does he mean? He means when Sean was going behind your back and talking to everybody and starting propaganda, basically, like, how aligned were you with that whole plan? And she says this completely different thing, goes on this completely different road. And then when he says, who are you talking about at your exit? She's talking about Bailey and Alex, but then she ends up admitting my guy was going behind my back and starting propaganda. So, like, so you weren't aligned with that, is what you're saying. But it took this whole, like, circular thing to get there. And then Wells didn't call it out either, but that was an answer finally to what he was asking.
Yeah. So we kind of got there, but it was, just a lot. And then Kat and Allyshia start to have a argument, and Wells asked Kat a question. And then Kat said, well, Allyshia, you speak for other people. Why don't you? Sorry, what was that?
Just like, why don't you answer for me? Like, Wells asks her a question, and Kat's like, well, Allyshia likes to talk for people, so why don't you answer that question?
Yeah. So shady. And then Allyshia said, go ahead, give me a cue. And then Kat said, we never talked. And Allyshia said, we did talk that first day, too. You turned to me to take a picture of the girls. It was excluding. So she was feeling very sensitive about entering when she did. And then something about a lie detector test. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing? This is so weird. And I think Kat felt that way too. And it was, I think Allyshia felt hurt, and that's the core wound there, and didn't know how to articulate that. So then was doing a lot of other stuff that didn't, like, what does she need to take a lie detector? Did you know what she needed to take a lie detector test about?
It was like the same stuff about that guy, like about whether she was dating that guy, and the computer was like bringing in the laptop or whatever, bringing in the iPad. And yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it was the same thing you do exactly. I think she was pretty hurt, and then she just like took it out on like, well, we know you lied, so like that's what matters. I say you lied.
Who cares? And it's like, who cares who she was talking to before the show? Like, I think, who is not talking to someone before the show, and who is not coming on half expecting not to meet anyone, or 75% and going on for exposure? You all are. So this is like a ludicrous conversation. Like, can we keep up the air of whatever we're trying to do here? Like, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
Exactly. And I'll say this next part because actually I meant to put a segment. This is one of my segments is.
Oh, nice.
But like exactly like so and also by the way later in the fight it turns out even Allyshia and Sean disagree about one of the things Allyshia is accusing Kat of. So it really is showing she's just sort of like throwing out what she can. So the next thing though that the one thing that stood out to me that Allyshia said that I was like, oh, that's tough is that, and probably true, is she said the way you talk to everyone, she's saying to Kat, the way you talk to everyone, the maids, the bartenders, the producers, everyone. So I think that says a lot. And this is where one of my class related conversations is coming into the chat, and also related to what I was talking about with the luxury hotel that I stayed at for my birthday that I was saying I was going to tie back in about class. So what I wanted to do for this though was if one of our clients had this presenting concern, how might we intervene around it? I would want to work with Kat, and I think some of it is about her classism that was born out of her own, I'm imagining, very low income childhood. So she talked about being in group homes, foster care. And so I understand she really was very poor, and also at some point changed her social mobility for sure. It seems like that's clear. I'm not exactly what started that, or if it was related to the first time she was on the show, or if it was prior to the first time she was on the show. I'm imagining it's the latter. But now she sort of has this air of superiority over everybody, but it's also very clear it's based on insecurity, like deep insecurity. And so that's also, for anyone who doesn't know, what is narcissism. That's what narcissism is. It's like the deepest shame about not being good enough. And so with narcissism, it becomes so buried that person doesn't even believe it anymore. They don't believe that they have that shame, but that is there. That's there at the bottom and inside, deep down. So for her, it's pretty clear. She feels pretty insecure. There were a few times it came out like somebody would say something like, you were doing this, and she's like, well, I get that feedback a lot, and like that's something I'm working on or whatever, so there's certain types of feedback with how she is with other people that she's starting to learn more about. And I think some of that comes from the fact she just didn't know how to like others. Oh, we have news about social media because we've changed some things around, whereby we now have our TikTok is actually now at Reality Test Pod. Our Instagram is at Reality Test Podcast. And our YouTube and Facebook are both Reality Test Pod. So everything is Reality Test Pod or podcast now, except our email, which is realitycheckpodding@gmail.com. Look at that, done already, easier. And I will also say, check out our Patreon at Reality Test. The @ Reality Test is our handle, so you can either put that at the end of patreon.com without the @ or you can put it in the chat, in the search bar on patreon.com. Check out our Patreon for full episodes of our video episode stuff, content, and then you can get the full audio anywhere you want. But the other thing you can do is if you become a free member of our Patreon, it's completely free, you can get our audio the night before it comes out publicly. You can also get video excerpts on YouTube, our YouTube channel at Reality Test Pod, for free so that's only like about the first half of each episode on video, and video format is available for free on YouTube. And then you need to go to our Patreon and become a member for $5 a month, only $5 a month, likely free for you anyway for the first year. Come check it out because of our promos. You might get the first year free, most likely. So then become a member and you can get them for free for the first year if you're free for the first year. But you can get access to all of those videos for full videos. So we'll have other things too. More content to come on Patreon and things like that. We do already. We have other things like mental health checkups and informational videos about mental health, like about the talking about Mary's son on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and things like that. So, oh my gosh, there's so many previews. Have you seen the previews for things? There's the preview for Salt Lake City that came out. There's a preview about what was the other preview I watched? I was like, damn, that looks good. Oh, there's a new show. Oh my god, it actually looks really fucking good. Where like the housewives swap places. Like Angie from Salt Lake City is gonna switch places with somebody from like one of the housewives I've never seen before. That's like in a really low income area. I don't know what it is, but she goes somewhere else completely. And then like people are switching from like the Orange County to New York or blah blah blah. So it's like they have cast members from each of the housewives. Atlanta, blah blah blah. Each of the housewives, and they switch places with each other for like a week, and shit happens. Shit goes down. I'm excited. It looks really fucking good.
Fascinating. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah, a little Bravo re-entry.
Love it. Yes, we've been out of the Bravo-verse for a minute. We got to get back in there.
Invite us back. We're happy to come.
Yes.
Give us good content. We'll be there.
Yep, we'll be
there's
there.
another Summer House spinoff too. It's called In the
I
City.
saw that.
Yeah, dude, that's another thing happening.
Cool.
Yeah.
We got a lot. We got a lot to look forward to. It's going to be a good year of reality TV.
Yeah, Bravo must be in its like season for recording right now, like season, and then they have, because a lot of times they have multiple seasons of things happening at the same time, like coming out. And right now it feels like they have nothing, so they must be recording
all the things. I think you're right about that.
Yay!
Well, it will be fun. Well, my dear, this was so much fun. And don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, tell all your friends. Yeah, I mean, $5 a month, you could make a big difference in our ability to keep doing this thing we love. So we appreciate you all.
Yeah. Hi, friends that were invited. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. And come back next time. And we will see you all next session. Bye.